Thanks for joining me here on Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I'm your host, Karen Fabian, the founder of Bare Bones Yoga. I'm an experienced registered yoga teacher with over 15 years of teaching experience, a certified personal trainer, and an entrepreneur. My mission, what I stand for, is this: to help you develop into a purpose-driven, confident yoga teacher. One who truly understands anatomy and how to share it clearly and effectively so that you can help your students learn and, as a result, grow your impact and connection. This mission reflects the core ways of being that I work to develop in teachers: confidence, clarity, purpose, impact, and connection. Through my mentorship program and my premier offer called the Blueprint Learning Program, I help yoga teachers build their skills in the area of learning anatomy, and along with that, help them learn important business skills and personal development ways of being that will transform them into purpose-driven teachers who make a big impact. On the podcast here, you'll get a blend of both anatomy learning, stories from teachers, interviews with others in the field and beyond, and a dose of personal development. For more information on my programs, please see my website, barebonesyoga.com. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I'm your host, Karen Fabian, and this is episode 74. So I hope you're doing well. We're on yet another week of restrictions because of the coronavirus, and I know that someday we'll look back on these episodes and this will be behind us. I hope that you are healthy and well, and if you are struggling with any aspect of this, of course physically, or people that people that are close to you, I continue to start these episodes out by acknowledging that perhaps all my listeners are not in the same space, both mentally or physically. And I really just send you nothing but compassion and strength if you're finding this time difficult for any reason, or if, God forbid, you are not well. I know this can be a really challenging time on a lot of different levels. And as much as you can, use the tools that you have, of course, from your yoga practice. I know the majority of my listeners are yoga teachers. We've all got that as a foundation to build upon, as well as meditation, healthy eating, staying away from kind of a lot of the news, and just really trying to keep some perspective. And I know that can be challenging, and I just continue to support you in, whatever endeavors you have in that way. If there's ever anything that I can do, feel free to reach out, even if it's just to, touch base or to chat about something teaching related, even if it's just as a distraction. I am happy to help. So I wanted to start out this episode with a little bit of an intro. We've got a special episode, or I have a special episode here for you today, because I've invited a fellow teacher to join us. And when you hear the episode, I know you're just going to love her and be inspired by her willingness to share. Now, before I introduce her in that interview, I want to just share just a couple things with you. So first of all, this episode was inspired by the release of my free video training on yoga cues. And it's a video training and comes with a template that you need to download so it all makes sense. And the training is all about how you can decode a cue you hear so that you can understand the anatomy rationale behind it. Now, this is a big part of what I love to share with teachers, what I like to call understanding the why behind the cue. And I figured, rather than just sharing the why when people ask me examples, at least what I can come up with, why not share the how? In other words, how I determine the why behind the cue so that you can do it too. Now, why is this important? Well, it will help you transform from a teacher who just repeats cues to one who shares what they know in a way that's logical, highly accessible, understandable, and also can be discussed with students rather than leaving you to just say, that's the cue I was taught to say. I'm not quite sure of the why behind it. The other reasons this video training is helpful is that it might just reveal to you that you've got some brushing up to do on anatomy, or maybe you really need to dig in and learn it for the first time. And what great information that is. And you might say, well, why is that such great information to know that I have a learning gap around this really important subject when it comes to teaching yoga? Well, because once you know that you've got a learning gap around anatomy, you can make better decisions about the trainings you take. And if it's anatomy knowledge you need, you can look for trainings that specifically give you that information rather than signing up for more general 300 or 500 hour trainings only to feel afterwards like you don't have the anatomy knowledge you need. So the teacher in this episode took this free video training that I have, and I wanted to hear her thoughts on it and what it revealed to her. And that's how it got to be that she was invited onto the podcast. So let me share that if you want to be on the podcast to share your takeaways once you go through the training and download the accompanying template, email me and let me know, and I'd be happy to have you on. So you can just email me at Karen@barebonesyoga.com, and you can get that right off my website, the contact me page, and the website is barebonesyoga.com. Now, if you haven't taken the free training and you're in my anatomy work group, I post it all the time. You can also just DM me or email me. You can DM me on Instagram, barebonesyoga, or you can just send me an email and say, hey, I want the training. And I can send you the free training. Also, a quick and easy way to get it, if you go to the website, just look up this episode and it'll be linked right there. So let me also share, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, last week I told you all that I have released my full training path for teachers, which includes my Blueprint Learning Program, which is my signature learning program on anatomy for teachers. And I'm actually going to be opening enrollment this month. But enrollment is only going to be to teachers who have taken this free video training and downloaded the accompanying template that goes with it. So if you want to be notified of open enrollment for my signature program around learning anatomy, you've got to take this training and you've got to download the template that goes with it. And that's because I really want to offer my program to teachers who I know have expressed an interest in understanding anatomy and cues and how to integrate anatomy knowledge into cues. And that's all of what my video training is about. So I'm really just focusing my open enrollment on just that subset of teachers who have kind of raised their hand in this virtual world and said, yeah, I want to learn more about anatomy and I want to learn more about cues. And so that's the way to kind of be in the audience of teachers who will be offered a chance to enroll in my program. And then once you graduate from my Blueprint Learning Program, you can then apply for my 6-month mentorship program, which is a more intensive one-on-one experience for teachers where they not only are coached on a monthly basis, but they also have an opportunity through those coaching sessions with me to learn more about anatomy and teaching skills, sequencing, higher level things that you really can't go into until you have that baseline of anatomy knowledge built. And once that 6-month program is complete and you graduate from that, you'll be a certified teacher by me in anatomy and teaching. So this is a really niche certification, and it's one that will empower you to be able to teach in a way where you will be able to share from a well of knowledge that you have. And once you have that, you will feel more confident, your cues will be more clear, you'll have more freedom around sequencing, you'll have more of an ability to kind of just walk into the room and teach from what you know, rather than feeling like you have to teach from something you saw on YouTube or some sense of what people expect of you. All of that will be kind of stripped away and you'll be able to kind of step into your own power as a teacher. And then once you're through and you're certified, there is also an opportunity for you to join my certification membership program, which is an ongoing support for certified teachers. Because one of the things that I noticed is oftentimes when individual teachers have certification programs, once teachers are certified, outside of maybe a once a year retreat, they really don't get any support. And this was something that I wanted to change. So through my certification membership program, that's another monthly opportunity for monthly coaching sessions, access to any of my program offerings at no cost, and other benefits as well. So it's really a full training path that gives teachers a really clear kind of step-by-step process towards certification in anatomy and teaching, and then ongoing support once they are certified. So to find out more about that, you can go to my website. The best place to start, because it's really the first part of the path, is to enroll in my Blueprint Learning program. And you can only do that if you've at least completed your 200-hour training. And that gives you a baseline of knowledge in yoga. And then from there, you can apply to, you can enroll in my Blueprint Learning program when I open enrollment. To do that, a good place to start is to get on the wait list. So if you go to my website, you'll see the waitlist link for the Blueprint Learning program right on the homepage. And there's no obligation. It's just basically kind of raising your hand, again, virtually, to say, yeah, I'm kind of interested in learning more about this Blueprint Learning program. And I'll contact you. We can talk a little bit about it. And then when I open enrollment for the program, you'll be one of the first to know. So that's the update there. Before I start this interview, I want you to think of some things, and this will be kind of a good mental shift from some of these details I've been sharing about kind of things in general to getting in the right mindset to hear this interview. So I want you to think about some things that might be blocking you in your teaching. Now, I'm not talking about tactical things. So all of what I was just referring to in terms of cueing and anatomy knowledge, I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking now more about mindset things, things that might be on your mind when you teach, or things that you might think about when you imagine yourself teaching in a way that is confident, comfortable, and feels authentic to you. Because this is in large part what I talk about with this teacher in this interview. And why do you think this even matters? Well, your ability to reveal the self-limiting thoughts you have about yourself and face them head on will, in large part, be part of your development as a teacher. We've all got them. Those things that we think about ourselves that prevent us from standing up tall in front of the class, using our voice clearly, feeling comfortable in our own skin, maybe even things like dropping practicing with class because we're kind of using that as a crutch to hide behind instead of standing confidently in front of them and walking about the room. Revealing some of these things to ourselves can be scary, which is why I'm so honored that this teacher was willing to do this. And I know her courage will inspire you to do the same. Being willing and open to look at things differently rather than a way that things are or a way that we are is a huge part of our personal development, both as a person and inevitably as a teacher. So I want to introduce you to Vijoleta Pezer, a teacher in Sweden. So she's in Sweden and I'm of course here in Boston. And I have had the pleasure of meeting her, of course, remotely via not only my Facebook group for teachers called the Bare Bones Yoga Anatomy Work Group, and also through some work she's done with me in one of my programs one-on-one. Vijoleta, or Vicky as she calls herself, shares part of her teaching journey with you today, and I know you're going to find both inspiration and opportunity for growth in her wise words. So let's proceed with that interview. Okay, so Vijoleta, it is so nice to see you coming all the way to the podcast from Sweden. So it's evening by you. So how do you say good evening in Swedish?
God kväll.
Ah, beautiful. Well, by me it is afternoon. How do you say good afternoon?
Yeah. You want to know how to...
Yeah, how do you say good afternoon?
God eftermiddag.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit...
yeah. That's lovely. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today to talk with me a little bit just about just teaching in general and one of the things that I've recently shared is just a tool to get people talking about cueing. So first, just give us a little bit of an idea of, of course you're in Sweden, where you are teaching, how is your teaching, how are things going with teaching?
Okay, so I have this little yoga studio, and I have like 8 people that are welcome to come, but it's not 8 people who always come. It's more like 2 to 4 people, and it's still once a week on Saturdays. And well, I'm a little bit afraid of still like reaching outside this little group of family and friends. So I'm just like keeping myself a little bit safe. Because I just feel like this is what I can handle. I know that there is a lot of potential inside of me, because when I'm alone and I'm like pretending being this teacher, and I can say maybe not the cueing is not my strong side, but I think that I do a pretty good job. And then when the students are there, I'm just like, I get nervous like now, and I almost forget the sequence, and I'm just like, I don't know why I just lose myself. So I wish I could reach out to more people, but for now it's just like this little group.
Give the listeners an idea, because I think, especially because of right now, we were just chatting before about the corona outbreak. And I know in Sweden things are a little different. Are you still teaching now, because in your area movement is not restricted for people?
Well, I'm just teaching for the group of the friends and family. So I have like a group, Yoga med Wiki, because I call myself Wiki, and I have a couple of people there, and I'm just holding myself to that with a group. So I'm not posting anything on Instagram.
Got it.
I'm just like sending away a messenger and inform them that we're just keeping this little group.
Right.
Because there are people here who are scared to be in a gathering with a lot of people. I mean, 8 people, not much, but
right.
are working and they have kids and stuff like that, so you don't really know where you can get this virus. So I'm just keeping it for now.
Right, the small group. Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that, just in case people are listening and thinking about that, and even that, of course, being something we are all dealing with. As you are speaking, you can be speaking to teaching happening now, or your experience with teaching happening back before this pandemic was going on, and some of your feelings about that. So having said that, tell me a little bit about what happens when you are teaching that feels different from when you are not teaching and thinking about teaching. When you were describing it as when you are teaching, sometimes you get, I don't know if it's nervous or forgetting the words. So how is it different to be doing it versus thinking of doing it?
Well, when I'm at home and I'm doing the sequences during the week, it's just one sequence a week, so it's not that much. I mean, it should be a piece of cake. I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm doing a sequence and it's going to focus on, I have the yamas and niyamas like in focus, but I feel like a little bit of fake, because I'm not really that deep into yamas and niyamas and stuff like that, even if I try to read as much as I would. But when I'm teaching alone home and I'm pretending to have the students, and I can just go on and the words just come naturally, and I'm just like, oh man, I got this self-confidence and I feel like I can do this.
Yeah.
And wow, it's going to be a great sequence and everybody's going to understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. And then a Saturday comes and there's less hours to teaching. I'm just feeling like my self-confidence is just sinking. I don't know, I get anxious and I'm just like, oh man, nobody's coming. They always send me a message on Messenger, and sometimes it's just one person, and she loves to come to my yoga. So she's like a dedicated yoga student, and she's feeling amazing. So I mean, I am doing a good work for at least one person who,
Right.
and I think, yeah. So my self-confidence just like it sinks, and then I come to my yoga studio, and then it goes up a little bit, and then they come in, and I just like, I get so nervous, so I just lose myself sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like, no, I'm just pretending to be a yoga teacher, but really I'm not doing a good job. But I mean, I have this sister of mine, and she's always calling me afterwards, and she said, oh man, you're just doing a better work each time I come to yoga. And I'm just like, did you think that was good? And she's just like, well, man, what do you need to start believing yourself? Because I don't know what it. So she sees the things in one way, and she thinks I'm great, and I'm just like, the time when she thinks I'm the most great, I'm feeling the most like down at the bottom. I don't know. I don't know why I feel that.
Let me ask you this: when you were saying at the beginning of this piece about the yamas and the niyamas, and it feels like something that's not really in sync with how you want to be theming your classes. Tell me about that. Do you feel like that's something that you should be bringing up? If you didn't bring that up or theme your classes around that, how would you theme them in a way that feels like you're not pretending to be something else?
Well, I don't know. I mostly took yamas and niyamas as a theme because there's so much talk about that you have to have a theme when you're sequencing. And I just feel like a pressure. I just want to do a yoga sequence that maybe just focus on hip opening and something like that. And just, but I feel like all yoga teachers are talking so much into this theme, and and they are like talking so deeply about it. So I just feel like, on YouTube, that's what I watch. I don't go to the yoga studio now here because of the corona.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
So you're saying you feel kind of this pressure to focus on some of these philosophical.
And that I have to do sequences like these yoga teachers that are like doing 100 transmissions from one pose to another and doing all these creative things. And I'm really a simple person. I like to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So
So you're kind of getting to it. So let's just imagine, or let me ask you, what would you teach if you didn't have these other influences? How would that look?
How would that? It would be simple. It would be just like today we are focusing on breathing, and I would just make a deep diving into just breathing, just to know a little bit more, because that's an important thing, and then just guide them through some exercises where they can feel, how to breathe and stuff like that. Because the students I have, they're just beginners. They're not really they're just doing yoga once a week if they come to me, and never before. And I want to learn. I want to give them the foundation, and it would be just a couple of foundational yoga poses that I can just to make them just feel the pose, and to give them this right alignment and a couple of cues so they can bring it, as you say, bring it off the mat and into the
yeah. So it sounds like you're talking about kind of the internalization, the somatic, the sensation, the sensory experience of the student. So kind of stripping away all of the other things, if I'm hearing you correctly, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. So what would be stopping you from teaching in that way?
I really don't know.
I mean, let me take a guess. It sounds like to me, somehow in your mind, you are thinking that there's some I should be teaching in this way because I'm seeing other people teaching in this way, and they must know what they're doing. Or where is that coming from? I don't want to assume, but So let me go back to my original question. What is stopping you from teaching in the way you just described?
Well, I think it's the pressure. I look at YouTube, and there are a couple of people that I am following, and there's one that I follow, and that just keeps the things simple, and I really like to be something like her, but not her. I like to be myself, but doing it in a manner like she's doing. But then I look at like, did you hear about the Fiji McAlpin? Is that her name? Fiji. Well, she is on the Do Yoga with me, and she's really good, but it's too. And I feel like, oh man, she knows so much, and she do all these creative sequences, and maybe I should do it like that just to make people want to come to me, like the people pleasing person. Yeah. And I'm really sick and tired of pleasing people, because that's what I eventually have done all my life, and I ended up nowhere.
Yeah, so you mean not even in the yoga teaching, in other things of your life?
Yeah, as a child, I mean, I was always a people pleaser, and
so it's interesting, how we bring this to the teaching.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm turning 40 this year, so I should be like, I've grew up from this, but I feel like a child, even though I'm 39. So it's not really that big difference. I don't feel like 39. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I feel like
let me just say one thing to this, because I can relate. Maybe not specifically about the people pleasing quality, but other things that I have felt I was, right? So I am this way, I am that way. And it's like a belief, right? It's like a thing that we believe. Maybe it comes from when we were young, maybe it comes from something else. And so we believe it, and then all of a sudden we think it is unchangeable.
Yeah.
So do you think this people pleasing is connected to how you or if this people pleasing is part of what is fueling your teaching, right? You are trying to please the student rather than being true to yourself.
That is correct, because this one devoted student that comes to me, she's 52 years old, and I think she has carpal tunnel syndrome. So when I heard from her that she had carpal tunnel syndrome, it was like, it blocked me a little, because it was like, shit, I don't have many students coming, and she is one of them. So now I have to find a way where I don't do a lot of vinyasas, and I don't do a lot of, it's not the focus in mine. I'm not there to make them push more than 150%. I mean, just to make them challenge themselves. And now I'm just like, oh my God, now I have to think about whether I can have 3 planks in my sequencing, and the cat and cows. And sometimes I see that she's like, doing things with her face because it hurts. And I'm just like, oh man, I should be giving her some modifications, and I do. But I mean, sometimes it's when I get so nervous, I'm just like, oh man, what should I do now? So I feel a little bit blocked, and it's not her fault, it's me. When somebody tells me something, it just gets stuck in my head, and then I just like, oh, I have to find a way now to do a sequence according to this person. But I have maybe 3-4 more that are coming, and I have to think, so who should I, how do I do? I just feel confused. I don't, and then I'm just like.
So it sounds like part of what you said before, there's the answer is in what you are saying. It's just, sometimes I think with all the other things, you're going right past it. So just as you have said, you are offering her modifications, or to offer her modifications is being of service to her while you are still teaching your sequence in a way that others can access it. She has free choice to come to your class, right? She will when she needs to rest. I hear what you're saying. Sometimes we feel this sense of responsibility to the person who is maybe the one person or the 2 people in the class who are struggling. And if they have shared a physical limitation, then we have 2 and 2 we can put together. So in that case, it sounds like in a way you, and this is coming from a good place, that you feel somewhat responsible for her. You want her to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer, what, let me kind of go back to have you say it. So then what is possible for you and her when you guys are in class together? What is possible for you to do? And on her end, what do you think is possible for her to do? Let's focus more on you, I guess, first.
Yeah. Well, I would like to do a sequence that that fits everyone. And
Right.
I mean, and to give her the modifications so she can do the, I mean, so she doesn't just sit there or just, go back and just take her and massage her hands, because that makes me really feel like, oh man, she's not getting anything out of this.
Well, let me ask you this. Why would she be coming if she has the carpal tunnel? Why? She knows she has it. It sounds like she understands the limitations. So why is she coming? Could there possibly be other benefits she gets?
Yeah, she could. She says that her hips are more, they are feeling better because she has stiff hips, and she has some issue on the outside of her, I think it's the left thigh something, and I try to explain, but I mean, I don't know if it's the IT
well, even besides the specifics, just generally, let me ask you, do you think there are other benefits she gets from the yoga, which is why she comes to the yoga, even though she has the carpal?
She gets calm and she feels like, it's giving her so much. So she feels calm, and she just cools down from the whole week at the job, and she just longs for the Saturday to come.
So she has said this to you, right?
Yeah, she has said that,
So if she said this to you, she can see the bigger picture. Yeah. So can you see the bigger picture for her?
Yeah, I can, but I'm quite stubborn. So even if the people say, "Oh man, I'm a piece of work," even if they say that they are feeling good to come to me, I don't know. I don't see myself as this person that people are just coming to me because they feel good. I don't know how to explain it. I was always like, why would anybody like to be a friend of mine? Not that I don't know, that's just something that I used to think as a child.
Yeah.
And
so it's not, it sounds like you don't feel like you deserve to have these people come to your class. No?
Yeah, and even when I take paid for that, it's like I'm almost ashamed a little bit, because money is, so I take like $6.
Yeah,
$6 for the teaching, and
what? Hardly anything.
I don't make it. I mean, I have a rent that costs me 350 euros.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money, because I have 4 kids and no job, so I'm left with almost nothing at the end of the month when I pay. So, and I'm just like, when they, we're going to do you have Swish in America? No, when you can just, there's like an app, Swish, and you just put.
So they pay on the phone.
Yeah. And she gives me always like €1 more, because I always make a cake or some good bread with some vegetables, and they are always welcome to take a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and I make this good, and then I take just $6. That's
so it sounds like the people pleasing, but then there's also, and I think many people listening can relate to this feeling like, I'm not worthy of having people come to my classes. And again, who knows, sometimes we can know where this comes from, sometimes we don't. But this feeling of, like you had said before, kind of like, I'm pretending to be this yoga teacher and people are coming to my classes, and I don't really feel like I deserve to have these people to come, because, tell me why, because I don't know? Is there like a lack of knowledge that you think?
Well, I always feel like I have a lack of knowledge, so I don't know. I've gone to many schools, but it's always like, who am I to really know anything, and like being shit scared of finding a job, because who am I to ask anybody to help me if I'm like not knowing what I'm doing. So that's really why I don't have a job. I'm just at home now and reading yoga. That's all I do when I'm free from kids. And so I'm really diving into this, but I don't always have the time. I have the evening, the night when the kids are asleep and I'm so exhausted. So I just listening to your podcast or somebody else and I just fall asleep. But I'm listening a lot and I'm reading a lot, and I have a lot of knowledge, but somewhere I'm telling myself like you don't know really.
So it sounds like there's that other part of your internal kind of, not clock, but internal voice that is saying. So let me ask you this. So if we were to shift, kind of like we were saying with the woman, you know, why she is coming to classes, even though she has the injury, she's coming because there are other things that she gets out of it, which you can see, which she can see, which she even says to you. So for you, rather than focusing on what is not possible and what you feel like you right now don't have, what if we shifted that lens and we said, let's focus on what is possible for you, right? Because we can keep saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, I hear this voice, I'm, you know, or instead of, you know, kind of continuing to say, I am this, I am that, what about what is possible for you in the teaching? So let's kind of hone in on the teaching. So what does that look like? Because you're already kind of halfway there by saying, I really don't want to teach in this way. I really want to teach in this way. Like you're already more than halfway there because you can articulate the way you would like to teach. So just tell me more about that. How, if you were true to yourself and free of the pressure of trying to be like somebody else, what would that teacher, how would that teacher teach?
Well, as I said, I would keep it simple, and I would like to know to dive into anatomy a little more, so I can share with them that they can take with them to their home or wherever they are, and just really give them a sense of how to connect to their body. Do you understand me? So they just, because we're so disconnected, and I read a lot about that in yoga, and so I want to give them a sense of their body, so they can just land into it and just feel all the parts of their body that they unconsciously don't really connect to, and just, you know, I don't have to dive so deep in. I mean, I don't need to know all the muscles in the foot, because that's also a problem for me. I'm just like, no, I just can't learn one thing at a time. So I'm just diving into the whole of anatomy. That's my problem, and then I get confused, and I just want to.
Because there's no system, there's no systematic way you were learning. So this is a good transition, because one of the things that we were chatting about, or going to chat about, is the training that you did that I had and put out recently about the different with the different videos, walking through the cues and understanding the why behind the cue. So this is partly what you're saying, right? I don't know this part of the body very well in terms of the forearm. So if someone comes to me and they have carpal tunnel injury, I feel a little bit unable to assist them because I'm not very familiar with that. So let's kind of take that idea and apply it to when you did the training, the online training. So for people who are listening that are unfamiliar, I'm going to include the link to the training in the show notes. It's basically 4 videos, and it walks through a system for understanding the why behind the cue, knowing that many times teachers are using cues where maybe they're saying the words and they're not really 100% sure what is really happening under the skin, but yet I learned this particular cue, and I'm going to say it because it's probably right. I'm not really sure what's behind it. So tell me a little bit about that experience for you, going through those videos and something that struck you from that, because I think it kind of relates to part of what we're talking about here for teachers.
Well, it's like when I wrote to you in the email, the thing about knowing the cues and doing the connection to the students and being clear with the cues and stuff like that. And that's really what I want to, and there were some other things, but you know, I forget. I listened to the 4 videos 2 times, and I listened to the 2 first today too, because I'm one that also has a belief that I don't get anything into my head. So
yeah,
I'm just becoming the belief. Yeah.
But yet you wrote me with how much it, when you did the videos, how much it impacted you. So you must be retaining something, because you have this moment of clarity. Yeah.
And it was that part when you were talking about, as I said, the cue and knowing the why behind the cue, being clear, having the connection, and to see if the students get it without you being on the mat and doing all this stuff. Because as I do yoga now, teaching it, I'm doing it all the time on my mat. So when I step away, they're just like watching if they're in the uttanasana, in the half forward fold. They're just like looking up at me, and I'm just like, oh man, they're not supposed, you know, to look at me, because I want to take a pause and just to watch them, just look at them and maybe correct them, and just like put a hand here and there, just to make them straighten the spine, lengthening the spine and stuff like that. But so that part impacted me a lot. But I mean, I overall, all the videos were great. So I like.
Tell me, when you were just saying before, it sounds like you're trying to teach, or you're trying to practice less with your class, but you notice when you pull away from doing the poses, they start to look up as if to question, why are you not doing it with us? Is that? Yeah. And I know what that's like. In the beginning of my teaching, I experienced that as well. So it sounds like, though, you would like to move to a way where you can see them, not from your mat in doing the practice, but just be walking around seeing them, because you want to see if the cues are working for them.
And they don't work. I'm trying to cue them, like in Warrior 2, the back leg, like, and I'm just like turn the toes 45 degrees or less into. I don't know. It's and then I see that the toes are pointing out from the and I'm just like, and I have this person, she's like hyper extending everything. She's like an elastic band, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God, she's like going far from where my joints are going. So I mean, her elbow, something here, if she's like doing something in the plank, so that's a problem. But also when I'm cueing and they are not putting the feet as they should, and the knee goes far beyond the heel, even if I always put focus on that one, that the knee should not go
beyond the heel.
Beyond the heel.
Yeah.
So I still, and like just externally rotate it, take the knee to the outside, and I don't know if they just haven't maybe got used to all this stuff, so they are just not really embodying what I'm saying. So it gets so, and you know, when I say just bend your knees when you are folding down to Uttanasana, bend your knees if you have tight hamstrings. And I still see people not bending the knees, but just folding forward and rounding the back. And I got this one, she got injured during doing my the last, not this Saturday, but the Saturday before, and I said, oh man, you got hurt in my yoga class. What the hell happened? When I tell you that you have to bend your knee, it's a friend of mine, so I can take this
Yeah.
with her. And where did you hide?
Well, I had to move because the cleaners are coming and they will turn on the vacuum in the hallway.
Yeah, I'm just like, did you go to pee?
No. It's, the people on the podcast, the people on the podcast.
Okay, no, I was just curious. Yeah.
No, they will hear noise if I don't move out from the main room.
Okay. Now I got you. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So
yeah.
I can understand what you are describing in terms of you want to be able to see them, to help them get more connected to their body, and you want to be sure that your cues, as you say them, are creating the correct action in the student. And yet it sounds like you feel like they are depending on you to do the poses as the way to teach the class. So what would happen if you did not do the poses and simply walked into the room and just started to talk to them about, do this, do that, just to talk them through the practice?
I don't know. I wanted to do that a couple of times, and then I just feel, because I'm doing a little bit like vinyasa style, like hatha flow yoga, something. I don't know. There's so many styles, so I get confused. And really what I want to do with them is just hatha and just do one pose at a time.
Yeah. So again, just in terms of the less about the label, just in terms of the what you are doing, what would happen if you just came into the room and just started to say to them, okay, come into child's pose, take a couple breaths, come into downward dog, and then you start cueing them. How would that feel to you?
I think it would now I can talk it would it would feel great just to be able to walk around there and just, I can almost feel it now when I talk to you. Yeah, because when I talk now to you, I can really imagine me doing not this vinyasa something, just bringing them, like you say, to
just do it.
Walk around, maybe put a hand somewhere to just assist them deeper into pose, or just to tap them on the knee, in front of the knee, to make the knee, go behind or in line with the ankle and stuff like that. So, and when I talk about it,
let me ask you this then. So if that sounds like a way that you would say, yeah, that sounds like it hits home for me, that is the way that I would like to approach things. Let's talk a little bit about the cues, right? And the idea of saying something and knowing the why behind it. How would that look for you? What kinds of cues would you be using right now, given the knowledge that you have right now, where you would feel like, I am saying something and I know why I'm saying this? What kinds of cues would you be using? Like if you would think about, I could say action-based cues, alignment-based cues, anatomy-based cues, feeling-based cues. What kinds of cues would you feel like, I can share these words with these people and I really know why I am saying these things? What kinds of cues would they be?
Well, it would be the action and the alignment cues, but I am still blending those two together,
That's fine.
Yeah, so it's like I'm still, and sometimes I think people are going to think I'm stupid because I'm still, sometimes I can blend the most simple things can be the most complicated for me. So it's not, but that's the one that I'm more familiar with than anatomy. But I could say something about, but really, I don't know everything about anatomy.
So let's not go there. Let's not go there.
No, that would be fake.
Let's go to what you do know. So it sounds like action cues and alignment cues.
Yeah.
And teaching in a way where you're doing less practice and you're guiding them to the feeling, not so much saying this is how you feel, but just guiding them to the physical
Yeah.
aspect of the posture, less of the philosophy of yoga and the underpinnings of yoga from a framework perspective, and more of the breathing and the shapes and the actions. Is that a good summary of how you would approach things?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I
Yeah.
want you to do now, because I just said it, I want you to put that into your own words and just focus on what is possible for you. Nothing that is not possible, nothing that is a belief, just the actions of what you would be doing, what is possible. So just tell me this.
Well, as you said, now I'm just going to repeat as a
Well,
parent.
say it in your own words, though.
Yeah. So it's possible for me to teach from an alignment based and action based. Now I got the words wrong, but to
Well, that's
give.
what I said. You need to make them from you, coming from you. So just take a deep breath.
Yeah. Take a breath. Yeah.
Just,
No.
because if what I am saying is resonating with you,
Yeah.
it means that it's hitting home for you in some way. So when it hits home for you, then you can just say it however it makes sense for you.
Yeah. Well, then I would teach by giving the alignment and the action cues to my student, and just to make them feel in their body, and whatever they feel in a pose or an asana, and just incorporate the breathing also. So
tell me, as you are doing this,
yeah.
right? So let's put our vision hat on. What do you look like when you are teaching in this way? Describe how you look.
Self-confident.
Yeah. Well, that's how you feel. Tell me how you look.
How
like,
I look?
Are you walking? Yeah, like what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm walking around. I'm walking around, and I'm like connecting to all my students.
Okay.
And when I see that there is something to be like
tweaked a little
bit, somebody needs a little bit of assist, I would just put gently my hands, and just to not something so they feel like, oh my God, they're doing something wrong, because I know how something that feels. Even in the teacher training, when somebody came to you, the ego would say like, oh man, I thought I hit this asana, and now he or she comes and they, oh, I really must have got this wrong. Just to gently guide the student into a more correct alignment, no pushing, and no like touching that would make them feel like
too much.
So
that's what you would look, that's what you would be doing. So now tell me, so we have a description of how you would be teaching, what you would look like, what you would be doing. So tell me how you would be feeling when you would be teaching in this essential way with the action and the alignment, and you would be walking around the room, giving them just little tweaks here and there. How would you be feeling when you were doing that?
I would feel great. I would feel like I'm being of help to somebody, just like, oh man, I want them to enjoy the class, and that would really make me happy, because I can give them something back. They come to me and I give them something to take.
So how does that make you feel? Like, how are you feeling in that dynamic exchange between you and them? How are you feeling then?
Joyful, light. Like, like sometimes when I go in the street and I have a good day, and I'm just feeling like I've grown a couple of centimeters, and I'm just like, oh man, I own this world, and I can do anything. But that doesn't last long.
Well, wait, let's stay with what's possible. Let's not go to limitations. So do you would you say that teaching in that way makes you feel like there's a purpose to what you're doing versus it being random?
No. A purpose. All my life I wanted to work with people as a little child, and I wanted to work with body, with humans. But somehow I just ended up doing something totally different. I mean, I'm at schools a lot but I'm not doing anything of that, because this is really what I want to do, to work with bodies, with human beings, and
That's
just
beautiful.
connect.
So if you were to say what your purpose is as a teacher, how would you describe it? Like if someone were to meet you in a coffee shop and they were to chat with you and it would come up that you are a yoga teacher, how would you say my purpose as a teacher is? What would that be for you?
I just lost it now. Well, the purpose would be to make people feel good in their bodies and in their mind, of course, just because that's also something that I like to work with, like positive thoughts.
And so
that's coming from me. Yeah.
How would you do that? Because remember, right, there has to be a technique, right? Because even your own experiences of some of the limitations you feel that you have feelings about, there's still the how. So how would you help the person feel connected to their body?
Oh, yeah.
Well, go back to what you were doing in the teaching. What is the techniques? What are the techniques you were using? We're right back to where we were. You were using action cues, right? It's all
action and alignment-based cues to get them into their body. And to connect really the body and the mind together, and then the spirit, but maybe first the body and the mind before I can dive maybe a little bit deeper into the spiritual side. Because I love everything that has to do with spirituality, but so, and I think that would come easy if I just unblocked this way of being and thinking, these self-limiting beliefs that I have. Really,
well, again, like we can shine the light there, which on some level it's good to do that, right? Because we want to call some of these things up that block us. And then at the same time, it's almost like we have to have two things happening at once. We also have to keep focused on, well, what's possible for me, right? And I think all of what you are saying is what's possible for you, right? I can teach in a way that's focused on action. I can teach in a way that's focused on alignment, even while I am learning anatomy, right? I can do two things at once. And when I teach in this way, you said it yourself, you feel confident, you feel powerful, you feel like you have a purpose. And the connection with your students comes from that. You are walking around the room, you are seeing them, you're not practicing on your mat. So now you start to get that nonverbal feedback from them. Oh, I see my words are landing on them, and I know that they are hearing me. If something is a little off, I can go over and assist them. I can make that hands-on connection with them. So all of the ingredients are there. So, I think it's such a good, I'm so glad we ended up going into this today, because I think you are not alone in feeling this way. I have many conversations with teachers who feel this disconnect. And I think in a way, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, I do YouTube videos. I think in a way, YouTube for yoga teachers does create a little bit, it almost does a disservice to teachers in a way, because there is so much input, right? And when there is so much input to the teacher who is feeling unsure of their footing, it just tends to make that worse, right? Because then, just as you say, there's so much information and so much influence from all these different sources. And it can create a feeling of overwhelm. So I think today what we've done is we've kind of tried to strip away a lot of those extraneous things to help you start to identify what is possible for you, and to start to really vision with that, right? To sit in your meditation and to see that teacher in your mind. And to, even if it's journaling, to write just a little, this is how I want to teach. This is how I want it to come across. This is the way of being I want to embody. And sometimes it takes a little bit of that between the meditating and the journaling to make it start to overtake the other thoughts, right? The other thoughts that are there. So let me ask you this before we wrap up. So I want to see if you can tell me over the next, maybe let's say 30 days, right? So we're almost at the end of April. Yeah. So between now and the end of June, can you say 3 things that you can do to focus your teaching more on where you want it to go? So give me 3 specific actions you can take. What do you think those would be to make this come to life for you more?
3 actions.
Yeah. What are 3 things you can do?
The first one is that I need to get off the mat. Is that an action?
Get off the mat. Yeah.
Just get off the mat. Yeah. And just walk around to just feel the connection, because this way I can't see my students. I'm just doing something and I'm feeling terrible. Yeah.
Great. Okay. That's one. So give me another one.
The other one is to really dive into action cues and alignment-based cues, and really, those two.
So let me challenge you a little bit on that. So if you want to make that shift, to really dive in on the action cues, what's something you could do in between when you are teaching to get more comfortable using action-based cues? Like, what could you kind of do practice-wise on your own?
To actually do them, just like do the asanas, the postures, and maybe talking them out loud. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. And I'm not taking so much time of that, because there's something you need to know. I get so stressed out of feeling that I need to do yoga or yoga practice every day to be a yoga teacher. And I have 4 kids and I don't always make it.
Of course not.
I feel terrible, and I feel like every other yoga teacher is doing this and they have kids, and then I don't have the time, really, 10 o'clock in the evening.
So why do you think, why do you think every yoga teacher is practicing every day?
I don't know. It's also, and
where did that come from?
I really don't know. I just feel like everybody else is able to do everything of that, and I'm not. And who am I to be called a yoga teacher, really, if I'm not able to do yoga every damn day?
So let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible that yoga teachers are not practicing every day and they're still in the studio teaching the yoga?
Yeah, I know it's possible, because I read about them. About them. But even still, if I read about them, still somewhere deep inside of me, it's like, no. So the yoga stresses me, really. And I get furious. I get mad if I don't get my yoga. So there we are, the ego and the attachment to the yoga. And I'm just like, this can't be yoga, really. And I can still do a headstand without a wall, and handstand, and I feel like I need to do this if I'm going to be called like. And then
let me stop you for a second. So who do you think is responsible for saying when you are a yoga teacher and when you are not? Who is out there in the world that's the police or the authority, or who's out there designating people as yoga teachers and not yoga teachers?
No one.
Really. I'm being silly, right? Is there somebody?
No, I'm my own police. That's the thing. I'm my own police, and I'm giving myself, and I'm just like everybody. But really, I don't feel the urge to do a handstand.
So then let me ask you this, and this is back to similar question to the teaching, right? Because we started this out and you were saying, I feel like I should be teaching and talking about the yamas and the niyamas. And then we identified, no, this is really how I want to teach. So in terms of your practice, if you had your true, authentic way of approaching your own yoga, what would that look like?
it would be simple. It wouldn't be this idea of forcing myself to do
Right.
doing
Right.
handstand, because I'm shit afraid of doing handstand since I was a kid. I went to gymnastics and I was never a gymnast because I was too afraid. So why
Yeah.
should I even be feeling? I don't want to be that. I want to be this simple yoga teacher that are doing yoga because of the purpose of yoga, really. I'm not
Right.
getting
Okay.
enlightened.
So let's go back to so we were saying, what we were wrapping up with are 3 things you can do. And the second thing you said was action-based cues. And then you said, okay, so I will be on my mat. And one way I can really embody and get more comfortable giving these cues is I can practice and talk myself through.
Yeah.
So is that possible for you to do it, although in a way that feels true to you, rather than it feels like discipline and something that you have to do to meet this ideal? How would you be, would it be less frequent? Would it be less, the sessions would be shorter? You would just unroll your mat for 15 minutes and you would practice action cues for just a 15-minute practice. Like, what would it look like for you?
My own practice, or the one that I'm doing for the teaching?
Well, no, I mean, if you were going to learn action cues and get more comfortable with those, it sounded like one idea you had was, well, maybe I will do some yoga and I will talk myself through it using just the action cues to get more comfortable.
Yeah.
But without making it seem like this heavy, oh, I have to practice and I have to do all these challenging poses. What would it look like?
Well, I have done a couple of my own yoga practices, but I really enjoy them because I did them in my own rhythm, and it was like, a gentle but still very heated yoga sequencing, where I do it in a very slowly, in a slow motion way. I'm not throwing myself into different yoga poses like vinyasa flow. I'm just taking time to just get into the pose.
Right.
Stay there for a couple of breaths, and really, what happened?
So you could practice in that way and talk yourself through with the action cues to make that come more to life. So I forget now, what was the first? So the first thing you said you were going to do is teach in a way where you are not practicing in your class, you are talking them through it. And then the second thing is you're going to do some practice sessions using the action cues so that you can get more familiar with them. And then what's the last thing you can do in the next 30 days? Give me one more thing.
Yeah,
think of something that would help start to embody some of these qualities that you want to have, that you see in your mind. This will be more about the mind work. What could be something you could do to start to kind of let the mind relax a bit and let some of this start to shine through? Some of this way of being that you want to be. Is it that you need to sit and meditate on it, journal?
Yeah, Karen, that's really why, because I'm not meditating. I'm just feeling like shit. I'm a yoga teacher with no time for meditation. I'm meditating in my bed, listening to something, and then I fall asleep. So it's not really a good thing to do.
So maybe it's not, again, we don't want it to be heavy. We don't want it to be like, oh, I have to do this now. Maybe it's not meditating. Maybe it's writing something down, or maybe it's putting a Post-it note in the bathroom by the mirror that has the words that, maybe it's something else, but it's just something to think about how you can begin to introduce some of these other ways of being into your mind, to let some of the grip on the other ways loosen a bit. And so it's just a little bit of that, repeating some of this maybe in multiple ways. So no, I think this is good. And again, I think this is very relatable. I don't want you to feel like, you are alone in feeling this way. A lot of teachers, I got an email from someone the other day, and she said, taking this training and I just signed up for this other training. And I hope after these trainings, I will finally have the courage to teach. Right?
Yeah, listen to that podcast. Yeah, where you, today. Yeah.
So when you think about courage, right? You think of courage like running into a burning building or lifting a car off someone who was hurt. And to think that someone feels so much pressure as a yoga teacher that they would need courage. Now, I can understand it 100%. It's just an illustration of how much pressure we put on ourselves to meet this ideal, which is, again, another thing I think YouTube and social media proliferate, is this ideal of something, rather than people saying, this is my authentic way. So I really, really appreciate that you are willing to share with us what is your authentic way, because I promise you, saying it out loud is such an important part of making it come to be, right? If you never are willing, that's why a lot of times when I write things on Facebook and Instagram, I say, can you comment with, whatever the thought is, because I want people to feel the energy of not just liking the post. Oh, I like this idea. Well, how about what that means for you? What would that look like for you? And you're going beyond that. You're like, I'm going to say it out loud. So I want to just acknowledge you for what you are doing here. You are putting yourself out there and you are saying, this is how I feel. These are some of the limitations that I know I have, but yet I still feel this urge to go in this direction, and I still see this way. And so I just encourage you to keep feeding that vision, in whatever way you can. So I know we will chat again, because we are always chatting on the Facebook, which I love.
Yeah,
and
I'm always like,
right, but it's great.
I think you get bored of me when I just write, and I always wait, and I'm just oh, she's gonna think that I'm crazy always.
I feel like with the time difference, it works a lot of the time. It is morning for me and it is late afternoon for you. It is all good. I thank you so much for your time. And hello to the one that is there.
Hello. That's the youngest one. Hey, that's Bianca.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Oh,
thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I love it. It will be great. And I will have this podcast up, and people will listen, and they will be touched by your honesty and your willingness to share. Okay, ciao.
I hope so, because I listen to your other yoga teachers, and they seem so, I don't know, more confident and, saying so wise words and stuff. So I was really pretty nervous to be here, and I'm just going to look stupid, but
no, it is great. It is great. You just keep moving forward. It is truly inspiring to have you share so much from the heart. So thank you so much. Stay safe during these times, and I will speak with you soon.
You too. Yeah, and thank you so much, Karen.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, ciao.
Okay, ciao.
Thank you so much for listening to Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I am your host, Karen Fabian, and I just want to remind you, if you would like to get on the wait list for my 2 premier programs, the Blueprint Learning Program and my mentorship program, all you need to do is visit my website, barebonesyoga.com, and the links to get on the wait list for both of these programs are right on the homepage. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.